I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Lori.
Here. Fitchburg. Bangor.
Here.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Olmsted.
Here.
Counselor. Here. Amber.
Here.
Gilmore.
Here.
Haskell.
Here. Everybody had a chance to look over the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Hold on, I got one thing on that. Sale of property needs to go right on there.
Yeah. With the change
Sorry.
of the property deed, sale of property. Removed.
I will second. Motion, we got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approval of the minutes. I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 15th.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Motion, got a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? I get a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes, June 5th.
Make the motion to approve the committee of the whole matter for the fifth.
I would second it.
We got a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Can I get a motion to approve the closed session minutes of June 5th?
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Motion, got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can you please have those minutes, closed session minutes back to me?
General public comment.
Morning,
How we doing?
pretty good. I'm Kim Kennicott, most of you know who I am. I've been the airport manager for a while. I was on the airport advisory committee for a while. I want to give you a real brief blurb on airport funding and airport maintenance. I've been involved in the airport for about the last 10 years, and we have never had enough funding to properly maintain your airport. Never happened. And that culminated just this last year with the 23 inspection. And we had a conditional license, which meant we had a bunch of stuff we had to fix. So they were gonna renew our license. Now, we had problems with the runway, need to be re-crack filled, and a bunch of trees need to be cut down. We went ahead and got a bid from MDOT for the runway. You folks rejected that. Dave Ambrosabos was able to get with the County Road Commission. They came in, bailed us out, did a wonderful job, track filling. And then we had a bunch of trees need to be taken down because they interfered with the glide path of the runway and displaced threshold. What happened? So you want the money to do that. Now, some of those trees were on my 2017 5-year plan for the airport. They weren't new. Some of those trees were on the 2020 inspection. They weren't new. Then it all came to 23. And we had to fix them, or, you know, they were gonna close the airport. Basically, did not give us our license back. So, and I'm not here today to point any fingers. I'm here today, what I want you folks to fix something that's been broken for a long time. And that's funding for the airport. It's been real hit or miss. We've not had what we needed to do the job with down there. And what I'm proposing, what I like to see is a resolution from the county that simply states that you will fund and maintain your airport to meet current FAA licensing standards. Fund and maintain to meet current FAA licensing standards so that we don't have to go through this all the time. It's been a struggle throughout the years to get money. We did get the runway crack filled back in 2016, hadn't been done in a long time, we had cracks that wide. There was so much grass growing up through those cracks, we should make jokes about, well, we should mow the paved runway. It's, you know, I'm seriously, and it wasn't funny, because pilots get real testy when they get grass things on their propellers and things, you know. These are things that have done, I mean, it seemed like we were always struggling to get any funding. Said we did get it done, the crack thing done in 16, 17. We got the numbers put back on, you know. I was able to convince Tracy that we really need to do this, and she found the money someplace and went ahead and we did it. But then it just, everything just kind of rolls along. Now in 2019, we had a little breath of fresh air. The county entered into an agreement with Hayes Township and the city of Harrison for funding of the airport. That worked, Hayes Harrison put in 5,000, if I remember correctly. County put in 10. Worked great first year. And we had money, woohoo! We were happy. Went ahead, we made some more plans to get the pilot planning center, pilot lounge, if you wanna call it that, to get that redone. Got some bids on that. We had got gas piped into the county hangar down there. We got the furnace down there that had been put in by volunteers. Got that hooked up, Hiltz Plumbing Heating, pulled the permits, got all that running for us. Then the second year, Hayes and Harrison put in their money, the county deferred. They said, well, we'll put our money in later. Well, that never happened. Waited till the end of the year, did not put their money in. And I don't know if Hayes and Harrison ever got their money back or not, but it doesn't matter.
They did.
They did.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just been an up and down struggle. And again, we need to fix that. I'm not here to point fingers. What I'm asking is to fix something that's been broken for a long time. And as I said, I'd just like to see a resolution stating that Clark County will maintain and fund its airport to meet current FAA licensing standards, so we have a stable source of income. And that's really all I have. There's one other thing I forgot about. This year, the road commission did a wonderful job on crackling last year, but normal maintenance procedures, you look at your runway every year and see if there's anything else that needs to be done, whether it needs to be touched up or whatever. And then we need to have the numbers put back on the runway. I'm told there's funding available from MDOT, a grant, won't cost the county a dime, and I'm hoping you folks will support that. And that's really all I have, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, Pat.
My name is Pat Adams, as most of you guys know, and everything else. I am not a pilot, never will be a pilot, have no wish to be a pilot. I know that helicopters can land any place that there is in case there's an emergency. I've seen more than one helicopter land in the LZ. I was 21 years in the military. I think the airport is a necessity for our county. One of the biggest reasons is if there's a life flight that has to come in, they know exactly where they can meet somebody. And what is one person's life worth on taking care of something that they can meet with somebody in a timely manner. Again, I think this is not only is it good for life flight or emergencies of that nature. I think actually in most communities, businesses with airports expand more than those that don't have airports. I came from a very small community, rural community down in Lenawee County originally. So I ask that the board here takes into consideration that, you know, even if we save one life, what's that worth in money wise that we spend to maintain a airport? Nothing extravagant, keep it to what the requirements are to keep the airport live and have access to that. So with that, I want to thank everybody for listening to me.
Thank you, Pat. Any other public comment?
Carl Andre on one of the hangars out there at the airport. And I'd just like to point out that we've all got a substantial investment in the building. on county property. We all just signed a 7-year lease with you. For leasing the ground that they're on. Yet we're under a constant threat from word on the street, they're gonna close the airport, they're gonna close the airport. We pay taxes on that building. We pay rent to the county for where it's at. And if the airport was not viable asset to the community, the MDOT wouldn't be coming in here to work on the runway at their expense. And if it was not a viable asset to the community, a few years ago, Hayes Township and City of Harrison would not have been entered into an agreement with the county to fund it. So I think you need to take a look at keeping things going. Myself, if it was to close, I'd have to take legal action to recover my assets. Thank you.
Carl, thank you. Any other public comment?
Morning, Bob Ash, pilot, on hangar there at the airport. One of the things that brought us to the Harrison Town area was because of the airport availability, we fly up here quite a bit. Again, we just want to continue funding for the airport. We've gotten over 300 taxiway lights from Pontiac Airport. We're looking to get all the pretty new LED lights in at Oakland Troy Airport and Romeo State Airport. I've talked to them. We're gonna be getting all the runway lights, which will be all electrical and stuff. That's what they're trying to save a bunch of money using these used lights instead of the new LED lights. And it's gonna be a little bit of an investment just to get that all hooked up in place, but it's gonna save probably $100,000 in material. So we just wanted to make everybody aware of that we're trying to do something on our end also. I don't know if you saw the big banner that's at the end of one of the hangars. It's for the Harrison Area Pilots Association. What we're trying to do is just bring the community in, let the community know the airport's there. We're gonna plan some things at the airport this summer. Just to try and get the community involved. In addition to everybody here on the board. So again, we'd just like to see if everybody can. But continue to do the funding for the airport, and we need to get it back up to standards. Once we get these runway lights in and taxiway lights, then we'll meet some minimum criteria for the FAA. So then it'll be available for a grant to do additional things there at the airport, but we gotta get these minimum things in so that it's eligible, so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Moving on. Anybody have any comments, questions on the communications list? Gloria, up.
Negotiations are continuing over the differing approaches taken by the House and Senate over finalizing the max proposal for the revenue sharing trust fund. We should know which route they're taking by the end of this month, with Max supporting the Senate approach, which would mean a $52 million boost in the first year for counties. The Senate is taking up House Bill 5203, which is an amendment to expand the bill's provision to allow any county department, not just the sheriff's department, but any county department to rehire retirees without the retirees' benefits being jeopardized. It's difficult for county governments to hire right now. In addition to having that expertise in different departments come back and help teach the next generation. Another thing that we're watching very closely is the Medicaid coverage for inmates. It's still being discussed. MDHHS is in the process of applying for what's called Senate 1115, which is re-entry waiver. It would allow county jail inmates, juvenile detention, detainees, and also Michigan Department of Correction inmates who have their uninsured healthcare costs covered. They would have otherwise been eligible for Medicaid, but then when they're incarcerated, then that Medicaid goes away, and then the county's responsible for paying all of the healthcare costs. Yeah, so once they're incarcerated, they're no longer eligible. It is a huge expense to counties. There is also a $30.5 million proposal in the governor's budget and the House's budget plans to cover uninsured cost of inmates, so we're watching that very close. I've been spending a lot of time on the 25 budget and forecasting. And I can't, we're very close. I can't really present it yet. Because we are in the middle of contract negotiations with 6 units. So there are 6 different units that we are negotiating with, and then there are 3 units that have a wage opener. So I do feel it's looking very positive. I will present it to you as soon as I can. And we are working on a 2 to 3 year plan for how we're going to fund our retirement obligation into the future. I have been working with the department heads and the unions on the negotiations. You know, like I said, we have 6 contracts that are open. They expire September 30th. I'd like to get those buttoned up. And I talked to Jeff yesterday, and I would like a couple of commissioners to be involved in that with me. So Jeff and I did have a discussion about that yesterday, and we can talk about that later. Would you like me to go over where or wait to say the budget? To go over this? Wait, all right. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Jim and Allison, you're up. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we have passed out a copy of our 2023 annual report, so if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of work through that. And we'll focus primarily on the Ware County projects that we've covered back in last year and ongoing into this year. If you take a look at page 3, so what we do at the end of each year is we contact all of the companies that we work with, and we add up all of the company visits that we did in the year. That was 171. Company assist would be if we're working with a company and there's more than one way in which we've assisted them, that's what that count is higher. Total investments in 2023 for the companies we work with, this is just the companies we work with. 57, a little over 57 million, 577 net new jobs, and about 55 site submissions. And I'll talk about that a little further in a minute. But that's sort of the big picture. Those are our numbers. Obviously, our mission and vision remains the same. If you skip over to page 5, you can see how we kind of look at the 4-legged stool approach to economic growth here in Clare County and throughout the area that we cover. You know, people talk a lot about business attraction, but really the most important thing we do is business retention and expansion, keeping what we have. Because other states are always trying to raid our companies and get them to move, you know, to southern states that we compete with and other parts of the country. So keeping what we have and expanding what we have is really a major focus. We also do try to attract new business. We have increasingly had to work on talent and workforce development. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But our companies are really looking for people. We have unfilled positions in many of our companies. And then community development, and that gets into the talent issue as well, because you know, anyone that has kids, if you have any millennial kids, you know the challenge we have had keeping our young people in the area. It's a big, big problem. And so the more that we can do to make our communities attractive and a place where young people want to stay, if we just did that, keep a higher percentage of our young people here in Michigan, we would not have the population growth issue we do currently. Now, this is not a Clare County story, but page 6, this is Cal Pleasant Dairy. The people came over from Denmark. They're a Voss family, and you can see their whole family there. And it's a huge operation in Isabella County. They had to ship their milk down to Indianapolis to Foremost, and we were able to work with them and get things shifted so that they now ship their milk to Reed City, to the Yoplait Clay plant. And so there's no spoilage, and it's a much, shorter, distance and much lower cost in transport. But the other part of it is all of their kids are gonna be going into the family business. So this family is doing a good job keeping their young people here in the area. If you page over to page 8, the city of Clare has the new expansion. It's a 95-acre expansion of the Clare South Industrial Park. And I was able to get $29,500 grant from the MEDC to do all the final environmental studies that had to be done to get this to be shovel ready. Because to get it to be shovel ready, there's a lot of things you have to do to get it approved by the state. So that's all been done on the state's dime. And so this is now shovel ready and ready to go. It's like just completed like last month or something. 2 weeks ago, yeah. Final report 2 weeks ago. So that's been a big a win for the area. And then on page 9, a little bit about the site selectors. I mentioned the number of site submissions that we do. And also we talk to site selectors, and those are the people that companies hire to help them make their next decision. So big national, multinational companies will hire site selectors to decide and narrow down the list of communities that they're gonna look at. So you often don't even know you're being looked at until you're in the final 3 or 4. So what you wanna do is make sure these site selectors know about this area. So I go out every year, and Katie Mora, the vice president, she goes to Chicago. We do this in conjunction with the MEDC, so it's not just us by ourselves, it's a state effort. And then I was in the regional South Carolina. I'm going to New York in August. Again, site selector visit. So we go with the state and we present our area to the site selectors so that they're familiar with not only Michigan, but they're familiar with this part of Michigan. So that's something that we do every year. And we talked to 52 site selectors last year. You know, I mentioned expansion and Bandit Industries is a great story. When I first started at Middle Michigan, they were at about 300 employees, and they're now at about 800 employees. So, you know, that's been steady growth over since 2015. They opened this, the picture there on page 10, is their expansion into Union Township. So they can be close to the expressway. And so they're keeping their current operations in Broomfield Township, but also expanded into Union Township, which is right outside Mount Pleasant. And yeah, so if you could just take a company and 300 employees and grow them to 800, and that's a net increase of 500 jobs. And you'd have to look long and hard to find a new company to come in and make a 500 job commitment. So growing what we have is a big part of our strategy. Page 11, you can see the growth in at Melling in Farwell, 60,000 square foot building. That was the grand opening on June 7 that you can see there. Melling does automotive parts and mostly tubes, the tube fabricating, bending and shaping for the auto industry, and their growth has just been phenomenal. And we're very excited to be part of that. You can see the robot there with the rivet cutting, a couple of robots. And then on page 13, you know, really good news, because I know the people in the city of Clare was fairly controversial, you know, when there was talk about the hospital moving from the current location. And you know what I really appreciated, Marita Haddam Schiffman is the president of the hospital system covering Clare, Mount Pleasant, and Alma for my Michigan Health. And she's also vice chair of my board. And there were a lot of conversations, and you know, I really give a lot of credit to my Michigan for making the commitment to double down on the current location and invest $52 million in downtown Clare to update that hospital and make it state of the art and expand it. So it's a really great story. Next thing I want to talk about, skip over. Skip it, a little glad. So page 17, we had our downtown pitch competition in September. At the Ideal Theater. Well, the Ideal Theater also got a major grant that we assisted with to update the theater. How many of you have been in the Ideal Theater since it was redone? Okay. It's amazing, you know. It's amazing what they did. It's a beautiful theater now. And it really brought it back to where it was in its heyday and updated it. But we had our downtown pitch competition there and awarded over $16,000 in prizes to companies that came in with their pitches for new businesses, Back Alley Pizza, Sweet Louise Candy, and Gifts, and Wildflower and Wren Marketplace for the big winners of our downtown pitch competition. And it was the People's Choice Award. So we had judges, but we also had a People's Choice Award. So this has been a very popular event that we do every year. This is our second one. We're going to do another one this year. On page 18, Longer Table received a $25,000 grant through us here in Harrison, and that's at the Harrison City Market. And then also the Harrison City Market is benefiting from the Small Business Hub grant, which was awarded to Central Michigan University, CMURC, it's a research center, and also to us. So this is a grant that we applied with CMURC for $3.4 million, and about $255,000 of that will come to the Harrison City Market. So it's gonna be able to pay for an additional employee for the city of Harrison to oversee the market for the next 3 years. Allison is gonna have an office there. By the way, Allison is, you've all met her, right? Allison is our third director. Okay, let me stop there. I should have probably started with that. Yeah, so you might remember, we had Sarah Atkins before. Sarah moved on, and we made a decision at the time to decouple this position with Michigan Works. Because you might remember that in the past, we've had a person that was representing Claire for Middle Michigan also was wearing a second hat and working also part-time for Michigan Works. But the business load and the opportunities here in Clare County were so great that we decided that it was time to move that back to a full-time position, not with Michigan Works, but just working for you guys here in Clare County. So Allison, works full-time as the Clare director, and she's, she's still fairly new with the organization, but doing a fantastic job. She's going to get to know all of you as we go. But anyway, so she's going to have an office in the city marketplace. I think we're changing the name to part of it to the venue. So that's really up to City of Harrison, what they want to name it. We don't dictate that, but providing significant funding for, like I said, a full-time person who will be a different person from Allison, who will work there at the city market. And then Allison will have an office there. And we're making that available for the whole area as a food hub and a business incubator. So we're very excited about that. The Longer Table is part of that whole process as well. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
With that funding as well, we are upgrading some of the commercial kitchen equipment, so that way we can work on expanding it as a small business incubator. That way, anybody that wants to start a restaurant or a food related business, they'll be able to come in and have a dedicated space with the appropriate equipment. So that way they can utilize that here in Harrison. So it'll be a great step forward. And I know I'm working with Christy at the City of Harrison. We're going to make sure that we have a nice plan developed, so that way, once they have their footing, then we can make sure that they're staying in the area and make sure that we have incentives lined up to keep them around here.
Okay, on page 19, we're just celebrating there the Craig Gladwin CTE state-of-the-art expansion project. That's been a great thing to watch happen. Page 20, we finished up the regional training innovation grant That was a very tall order, because the state had some additional housing money available and approached us, to see if we wanted to run a grant program for job training, but using housing money. So what that meant was, since it was housing money through HUD, a person getting trained under this program had to provide the same kind of paperwork and identification that you would if you were applying for a mortgage. So you had to have your W-2, your 1040, provide copies of those and your copy of your driver's license. And this is working through companies. So in other words, we're working with companies. So the companies would assign the people that would train. So the person being trained may or may not have even wanted to be trained. But because it was part of the job, they agreed to it, but they had to provide all of that paperwork. So you could imagine the challenge that presented to us as somebody who, was gonna be trained because they're part of a company, now has to provide copies of their W-2, 1040 driver's license. Big challenge. On top of that, we had to make sure that at least 51% was low to moderate income. So, and that's why we needed all that paperwork to be able to prove that to the feds. So it was a very, very big challenge. You can see on page 20, the list of the companies that we worked with in the area, and for job training, and we were able to train 240 people. Great Lakes Bay, Michigan Works is extremely helpful on the low to moderate income side, getting enough people. We hit 53%, so 2% over what we had to do, and 240 people. So it was a big part of 2023's efforts, but all of that money went to the local area. It helped all these companies you can see there train some of their people. And then if you turn to page 22, this is an event. Well, actually, let's go to 21. Because this whole area, we are spearheading the Region 5 childcare program. And so this is a situation where we're taking the lead role. Middle Michigan is for 8 counties, or actually 9, including Osceola County. So the traditional 8 counties, Region 5, which are Saginaw, Midland Bay, Aranac, Gladwin, Clare, Isabella, Gratiot, and then also adding in Osceola. And we have $260,000 in grant funding to really work with our companies to make sure they understand the issues and are more willing to assist with this whole childcare issue, because we do have a lot of evidence that a significant number of people that could be in the workforce are holding back post-COVID because many of the childcare places shut down. We haven't seen new ones reopen. It's a desert, meaning this whole area is a desert, meaning that there are at least three or more kids for every position that's open in a childcare area. So tremendous need there. So there's a lot of state programs that are available. A lot of the companies don't know about them. There's been a lot of education. And so that's what we're doing right now with that. Coming home on page 22, we've been doing this since 2019. We do this every year. We work with Central Michigan University, Mid-Michigan College, and we really target our graduates. And we had this event again last October. We have another one coming up this October, and it's designed to be the day before students' homecoming. We get at least 21 employers this last year, meeting with 180 job seekers, and many of them were hired. So it's one more thing we can do to keep our young people here. And then I think I can probably skip over to page 25 and 26. And this is our board. Lori's a member of our board. We're really thrilled to have her as part of our board, representing all of you. And you can see our sponsors and our partners. Now, our sponsors, even though there's a lot more of them, that represents about 30% of our revenue. And our partners, our clients, which is a shorter list, that's about 70% of our of our annual revenue. So we don't get money from the state. All of our money is raised locally here, and we couldn't function without your support. So we very much appreciate the county and the support that you give us every year, and hope that that will continue. And so just, we have a couple other things we want to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so earlier Jen mentioned that community development is a very large part of what we do as well. One of those pieces that we like to utilize is Match on Main. It's through the NEDC. And this year for Clare County, we had Harrison and Clare both eligible to submit 2 applications to the NEDC for review. And I received 9 from the 2 different cities. And so we were able to have those reviewed by respective entities, and we were able to put 2 forward for both communities. So we are hoping to hear if we get award by the end of this month, fingers crossed. And then we already talked about the Harrison City Market a bit, but they are working on rebranding and relaunching, and so we will be having that grand opening as soon as we get through that stage. So we will send out the invitation for everybody. With that as well, we also are hosting the NEDC on June 24th at the Harrison City Market. They are going to be bringing in some legislators and local commissioners, and that way we can really highlight some of their success stories. So that is going to be at 9 a.m. and I believe that you sent out the email.
Yeah, we, actually Senator Howe, Representative Kuntz, Representative Nyer have all committed to being there. But the invitation also is for, local officials too. So Lori has that information, and, all of you are welcome to attend. We're working with the MEDC on this, but you actually have to RSVP to them. So there's an RSVP link if you would like to go, yes. And so it's on the 24th, that's Monday, 9 to 11 at the Harrison City Market, and there will be a box lunch provided at the end. And you'll get a big overview of what the state is doing with the focus on some of the local wins. And I do know Longer Table is gonna be there, Not So Shabby Gifts is gonna be there. So there's a number of Clare County businesses that will be there as part of that presentation. So hopefully you can make it. It'll be a good opportunity for you to see what the state is doing. But Lori has all that information for you. And the other thing I wanted to cover, there's been a little bit of coverage about it. But recently, Isabella Township Isabella County just approved for Isabella Township 150 megawatt solar project. That was just approved by the Isabella County Planning Commission. So that's rolling ahead with DTE. So it's a utility grade project that we were very, very involved with. And that's considered phase 1. So there are phases 2 and 3 and 4 coming. I do know that there's been some conversation with one township in particular in Clare County that's still at the early stages. But the way the array works is all of this energy is uplinked to the Coleman facility that DTE has. And so southeastern Clare County is very attractive right now to DTE as a target area for additional solar expansion. I just want to let you know, you're probably hearing more about this in the future, and we're very involved with that as well, because that'll be direct revenue that's going to come to the county. You'll get a significant share of that, as well as the township. That's money that's going to come directly to you. So that's infrastructure stuff that we do as well. That we really didn't cover so much in this year's annual report because we didn't have a big announcement in 23, but we will in the next annual report with this 150 megawatt project. So, all right. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see how thick this is becoming every year.
Yes. We're actually moving, and I think Laura, you know that we're moving around the corner. There's the bank where we've been staying. They sold the building they're in, but we bought from the bank, 111 South University, which is has semi-attached, right around the corner. As we're going through all of our stuff, you know, what are we gonna keep, what are we gonna throw out? We're looking at some of the older, annual reports before I got here, you know, they're basically just
They're one sheet.
one sheet, yeah, they're one sheet.
2014.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
They're
Yeah,
one
it's crazy.
sheet, so.
Yeah, this thing keeps expanding, I think yeah,
That's
And even,
fantastic.
we added 4 pages this year.
yeah, we did.
Can I ask Jim a couple quick
Yes, sure,
questions? Okay, I'm being told that the governor would like to keep the solar farms agricultural. Because she said at the end of 40 years or whatever, they will go back to farmland.
Yes.
Have you heard anything or can you say
Yeah.
anything about it?
Well, so we've been working with DTE primarily. They bought, Apex originally did all the wind towers in Isabella County, sold it all to DTE, and then DTE is also expanding. But I can talk about what their plans are. As you probably know, the legislation passed to like supersede local say and take everything to the Public Service Commission, but DTE doesn't really want to do that. You know, that's like a worst case scenario. They would rather work with the local officials and have the local officials on board for that, you know, because they want the public support, which I appreciate. But as far as turning it back into farmland, that's a huge commitment that they have. That in the contract with Isabella Township and Isabella County, that the commitment is there at the natural end of the solar farm's life, which would be 30 to 35 years from now, that there's a commitment in writing that land will be returned to farming. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's,
Yeah.
seems like almost impossible task.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, so one of the things that was an issue, when, there was more dealing with the engineering firm, but that the county was using, but we were, you know, a commitment was to not scrape off the topsoil, not put retention ponds in. And to instead use a ditching, firming, solution to any, flood threat, which is minimal. Because what they do, where the solar goes over, and typically in all of these cases, in Isabella Township, you're not covering the entire farm. You're covering a portion of the farm. So you may still have 2/3 or 1/2 of the farm is still gonna be, you know, farmable. And they're co-locating the solar where the wind towers are. It makes a lot of sense because then they use the same, you know, cables that they already have in place to uplink the energy. And so, but where the solar panels go, they're planting a certain mix of plants that are highly water absorbent. And so that's gonna be there, and then everything else can still be farmed with whatever was there before. So, and then, so it's still being farmed and just less of it. And then you have that steady income coming into the farm family, so in many cases, gonna keep that farm in the family, because they have all that extra income coming from the solar area. And then, at the end, they will turn it back into a farm.
I got a question about turning it back in farm. So is there gonna be a separate fund set to the side to turn it back in farm? Cause you got,
There's
cause you got all your cement bases, your foundations, stuff's gonna be dug up, so there's gonna be a big cost at the
Yeah.
end, make it back into farmland.
Yeah, there's a whole set aside, there's a set aside amount, I forget exactly how much, but it was more than enough to cover the conversion back into farming.
So that's guaranteed funds up
Yeah.
to 50
Yeah,
years.
it's an input in escrow.
Okay.
One more quick question. Where in the world did Bandit find 500 workers?
It's been a challenge. It's been a challenge that, there's been a lot of competition for the same people in the county, so, yeah.
So are they getting them from other businesses and that? So the other businesses are short of help then.
Well, not all, but I mean, they've been really aggressive in recruiting young people, recruiting engineers out of CMU. You know, a lot of young people that have grown up in the area have gone to work there, so but I mean, this has been over time, you know, from 2015 to 2023.
Well, we've been seeing a different shift in our industry too in the past 6 months. We probably have average of 5 to 6 drivers come in and fill an application. From a year ago, we had none.
Yeah, wow. Another. All set. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Josh? Yeah. Are you busy today, are you? Would you like to,
Well, I don't, I cut in front of anyone.
and they're all set, would you, you're here for the courthouse weapons policy?
Yes.
Yes. Would you like us to skip to that motion right now so you can get back to your day?
That'd be wonderful, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, absolutely.
48-3, Marlene, could you read policy approval E?
Yes. To approve the courthouse weapons control policy as presented.
Second. Yeah, motion got second, any discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Judge, when you were here last time to present this policy to us, I brought up the clarification of adding the private professional investigators to this policy. After reading this, I don't find that in here at all. What was the ultimate decision why it's not in there?
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because I don't think it came up in this, that specific point came up in the security meeting. Though we had unanimous consent, I was looking through to see if there was anything that maybe we omitted. But I don't know if you recall that one, but yeah, I don't know that specifically came up. So.
Because we have professional investigators who work in this building, and then obviously defense counsel brings professional investigators into this building. So I think that should be added before the vote is taken.
Under, approval,
From the judge.
because the judge, the prosecutor.
That's right.
Can
That's right.
present those.
That's right, I think you're actually, so I believe the way that was framed is that in the event, initially it was going to be. A determination by the chief judge for security purposes to approve any request. However, I think that how we frame that would be, I think it's 3%, if I remember, 3 parties. So anyone seeking approval, whether it be private investigator, whether it be defense counsel, special investigator, expert witness of any kind, could seek approval for that weapon through that 3-person panel for bringing any firearms or weapons into the building.
Is that included in this, Judge?
I believe it was, now I'm looking through as quickly as I can, but I know that we specifically addressed that. We're gonna try and draw your attention to. I don't have the page number, but I have it in references. I believe it's gonna be under C7. Any person seeking to enter the building with a weapon must obtain prior approval. That was modified to by a decision by a chief judge, a prosecuting attorney representative, and a representative of the Clare County Sheriff's Department. Previously, in years past, it had just simply been by way of the chief judge. And my thought process was I didn't need to yield that much authority. I think the greater input from a different variety of officers was helpful.
So the process for that prior approval spelled out.
Is spelled out in the policy and would then just be submitted by way of the 3 individuals, similar to what I know you're familiar with, similar with the old style of the gun board, where there'd be 3 different parties. So that's what we agreed to as this committee to do that for this.
Any other discussion?
Chairperson, I did want to make one quick comment. I think that the board should recognize that this was I think a tremendous feat for the committee, because as Mr. Ambrositis said, that the board had asked the committee to go back, and I know even Mr. Kleinhardt and I years ago, we've worked on a variety of different security measures over the last, I've been on the bench over 15 years, and some were agreed upon and some weren't. but I think over time, we have worked diligently and made great progress. I see windows have been tinted, security stations have been improved. I think employees have been accustomed to a certain level of security. I think the guests entering the building. And so when the board did task us with going back to come up with something that we could present to you, it's a pretty big feat, I think, to come back with unanimous approval from our committee submitting that to you. And I think it should also be recognized that this was a joint effort with our adjoining county, Gladwin. And the board did the same thing there. It was universally and unanimously adopted there as well. And I think it would be important for us now to publicize this to the community. Ms. Phelps and I have worked on a couple of things that if this is adopted by the board, and I certainly hope that it is, then we now publicize it, get it out into the newspapers so that the general public is aware of it before they travel here. What we did in Gladwin was we put it out in the newspaper, did an article, and we recognize that a number of individuals will travel here, walking, bicycle, transit. So Mrs. Phelps and I talked about additionally purchasing some lockers that would be placed at the entry. We did this in Gladwin. So any of our transient individuals that do come here with prohibited items, we can secure them at the opening, at the door opening, and let them do their business and then give them some belongings once they exit the building. So it's worked extremely well so far in Gladwin, and I hope that our two counties can come together on that.
There's just one thing I'd like to add in for specification purposes. Every time we adjust the security policy, seems to get forgotten. We need to add the board commissioners to be specified in it. The clerk and the treasurer and all the other department heads are specified, but not to be listed. I feel that we just need to verify so that we want to ask some questions.
Right.
I'm just reminding you, even applying this like policy, each individuals could be individually accepted instead of putting that in the policy.
Yeah, exactly. So the second, with that, it was discussed amongst the committee that any group or any individual could seek that exemption through the policy. It was specified for a limited number of individuals. And the reason I say that, interestingly enough, the Gladwin board, all of the Gladwin board members actually go through security.
Yeah. May I comment?
Yeah.
The committee decided to exempt the treasurer, the clerk, and the administrator because we're here all hours of the day and night, in and out weekends, and that's why we were exempted. I don't believe any of the other department heads were exempted. All of the department heads were exempted.
Yeah, so that was what the committee had suggested and had approved unanimously was, and I know it certainly can be difficult for yourselves as the board members, but we looked at the feedback we received from the Gladwin board and utilized that as somewhat of our model. And in fact, I think maybe I shared this with you. One of our board members over there is a pretty well-known farmer, and he came through with a knife, but it was just a farming pocket knife, and he said, "Glad you guys took care of that." He walked it right back out to his car, came back in, walked through the scanner, and so just an example of what the board did over there. But I certainly understand your concern, but the committee had elected to just have everyone except for the exempt list go through the scanning devices. If anyone specifically wanted to request an exemption, then there's a policy in which we can do that.
Well, as I read this too, if you come through that door, you gotta go through the scanner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we come through that door, so we should be scanned too.
Yeah. And
That's just to exempt them to be able to use other entrances where there's not a scanner anyway,
Right,
basically, as I read that.
And that's why we talked with the treasurer and a couple of the individuals that we knew specifically Mrs. Phelps may have to get here, emergency, after hours, carrying money. There were specific circumstances where we really looked at that. We felt as a committee, we should exempt those individuals.
Judge, do you exempt retired law enforcement officers
From
entry with their weapons?
retired law enforcement
Retired law
officers,
enforcement?
they are not automatically exempt, but can still follow the exact same process.
Why would we not make them automatically exempt as retired law enforcement officers?
More for confirmation purposes, because there are certainly retired law enforcement officers, but for our security personnel at the door, not knowing their background specifically, not knowing their training, not knowing, just anything that's occurred since their retirement. We didn't want to put our court security officers at a disadvantage. And I guess it's interesting that I brought this as actually as an example. So the former sheriff of Gladwin County, we all know him very well. He submitted his formal request with a copy of his driver's license, all of his credentials, submitted it directly to me, and he was approved within less than an hour. And that was Mr. Walters. So the example was he recognized they had been out of service for a number of years, and because our individuals at the doors don't automatically recognize retired law enforcement in this county or other communities, it was a safeguard so that at least we could address it and ultimately very quickly. I think we had a retired law enforcement officer that came in, had a firearm. We could address it pretty quickly.
Are these cups still gonna be banned?
Are those cups?
Yeah, the metal cups, I think in our
I don't.
original conversation,
Yeah, I don't believe so.
well, you talked about them throwing
Yeah.
them in the weapon.
Yeah, not necessarily for board members or individuals that are working within the building. General public, yes, because we did receive specific examples. One in particular was an individual had entered a courtroom, and I don't know the jurisdiction, but I can find it if you need it. Had entered the courtroom with a metal cup. And unbeknownst to court security, it was filled with gasoline.
Ooh,
And so he also had a lighter, and so the intent was he was going to, I believe it was. I don't know if it was his ex-wife or current wife or what the proceeding was, but that was the intent, was to set somebody on fire. So we are not automatically prohibiting any of the board members, individuals that work within the building, general public. Yes, we'd ask that they not bring those items for those reasons. That was the reason for the lockers. So that they did bring it. We don't want to seize their items. Our goal would be return it to your vehicle. If you don't have a vehicle here, we have a backup mechanism so that we're not forfeiting people's property.
what do you think of South Carolina's new law where everybody can carry a gun? They don't need a permit to have a concealed weapon.
You're gonna put me on the spot, huh?
What do you think of that? I mean,
Personally or professionally?
well, you know, down there, I mean, everybody's carrying a gun and, I mean, there are people that think everybody ought to be able to, and there's other people who think they ought to get rid of all the guns. So I mean, you know, well, the South is more the right to arm yourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe than we are up here.
Well, I think all too often politicians, punt things down I said it when I campaigned, and I'll say it again today. I'm as big an advocate of the Second Amendment as they come. With rights come responsibilities. And I've learned that there are things bigger than myself when I took this position. And even larger responsibility when you become the chief judge, that you have to look at a broader set of guidelines, and so I think that I've had to take additional things into account, that includes the safety of anyone that works in the building and the safety of anyone that else that comes to the building, and so I have to, at times, I think, set aside my stronger beliefs, and acknowledge that there are some restrictions, to those basic rights, and so I went through TSA 2 or 3 times last week, and I didn't blink an eye. That's just the world we live in. And so when I went to the airport, I expect that type of restriction. It's a sad, I think Mr. Feinhardt and I've had this discussion years and years ago, is that when you come into this building and, you know, you have a grandmother that wants to renew her dog license or pay her taxes, that we certainly don't want to burden individuals when they enter the building, but we do want them primarily to feel that this is a safe building. And I think all of us recognize the world is a different world. And when you have facilities that are prone to incidents, such as courthouses, you know, people don't come into this building generally for good reasons, maybe other than an adoption, but any other reason they enter, it's divorce, it's criminal actions. We have a, you know, very, very serious case going on at circuit court today, people arguing about taxes and the clerk's offices and the county administrator. So it's, you know, it's sad that it's come to that, but I think we have to be proactive as well. I don't even know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. I just wanted to
Yeah.
throw that out about South
Yeah,
Carolina.
absolutely.
And, but down there, most of the buildings are, the criminal justice has their own building and that is locked down. And then the public can go get their dog license and that to the other
Yeah.
building. And they're separated.
Well, and that's an excellent point, and I use that example often. Many facilities around the country have separate county operations from their court facility, so it makes it an easier mix, but anymore, even though those duties are separated, boy, I don't know that the danger is any less. I know, I think another week or so ago, there was another judge that was shot, and so. But I don't put myself in any greater danger than, say, any of you. I don't know that I used the example, but the way that I pushed the influence in Gladwin was, I just simply said, and this was the example in Gladwin, was if that's a firearm, every one of you is in an immediate danger if I hadn't been screened. And so I held that out, said this wasn't a phone, but this was a firearm. Whole different set of circumstances, and so. Yeah,
Well, I'm for anyway.
Any other discussion? We need a roll call on that, I think we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cavalier,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Pittsburgh. Yes. Majeski.
Yes.
Ambrositis,
The policy for how to adjudicate exemptions is not, so that.
Hopewing,
No.
Feinhardt,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Yes.
motion carried.
board members, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome, have a good day, everyone, and thank you all very much.
Just to let you know, I'm afraid Jack hit me with that.
Yes, yeah. He could. He deserves it even if I don't.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too, in-state health network.
Motion to reappoint George Gilmore to the Michigan Health Network Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Board for a 3-year term beginning September 1st of 2024.
I'm happy.
Motion got second. Any discussion? George, is that all right with you? Sure, that's fine. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I would like to move that we defund the
the Clare County Airport for the coming fiscal year. And have Lori check with the state of Michigan to see if they would like to take over the airport.
Point of order, not on the agenda.
Doesn't have to be in the
Mr. Chairman, point of order, it's not on the agenda.
I would also like to argue that that would be illegal. Because we have contracts with private citizens.
Should we have a second before it's discussed, Jeff?
I'll second.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda. Went to something kind of new to me. I might need some help and guidance on this.
Well, let me tell you my position. First off, we're being asked to accept a large grant. And we've gotten nothing but complaints from the airport for a long time about not funding it at a high enough level. And I believe a few months ago, I brought you in how infrequently the airport is actually used. I think it's a large drain on the county for no more people than it serves. And if we close the airport after receiving these grants, to my knowledge, those grants would have to be paid back. And I hate to see the county be even more liable for something that benefits so few people.
First, I'd like to address that not every pilot is required to fill out the register. Even at the Clear Municipal Airport, not every pilot that lands there fills out the register. Secondly, our register is in the airport restaurant. So we, as a county, are asking a private entity to do the work that we should be doing by having an airport flight planning center, airport terminal, that this board over the years has failed to fund and complete. So this is not about whether or not we want to close this airport, it's whether or not we want to fund this airport to a minimal serviceable level. We've heard that term quite a bit. Mr. Kennecott brought up how this board over the years has not funded the airport properly. There's only been 2 appropriations that I'm aware of since 1980 from this board to the airport. 2 appropriations. One was the $10,000 that was made part of that joint effort. And then the last budget year, where we got 20,000. And we've been able to do great things to move that airport in the right direction. I'm not asking for this to be Detroit Metro. I don't think anybody here is. But just the minimal level. That's a 1980s runway. Has not been repaired for any significant level since then. We're getting $48,000 of our own tax money back from the state. Nowhere in that contract does it say that we have to pay it back for any reason.
I believe if you close the airport, any grants that have been received in a recent timeline, I don't know exactly what that timeline is, would have to be repaid. That's the way it is with most grants. I disagree.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
you're welcome
I'd
to
like to
disagree.
state that if we close the airport anytime in the next 7 years, that this board will be sued.
Next 5 years, so this will be your spot.
Leases can be broken. I'm sure our attorney could handle that. And the lease,
Restaurants, not just with hangar owners, but with the airport restaurant itself. If you wish to be sued, go ahead.
thanks for
I'm just
interrupting,
warning
David.
the board right now.
Part of the
And
discussion.
another thing, Commissioner Gilmore, I'm very disappointed. I know this is an election year, but the people of this county deserve better than to have people who do not need to have their hands in another commissioner's race, try and mess with something that helps the community.
I'm not messing with anybody's commission rates. And I'm purely thinking about the drain to the county. And all we've ever received from the airport is complaints that we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do something else. And I see it benefiting very few people. Probably most of the people that it's benefiting are sitting right here in this room.
There's 14 employees at the airport restaurant that this would affect.
The
It would
airport,
affect any other development in my district, in Cross Township district, Jeff's district. This is about the northern part of the county. Why do you not want to support the northern end of the county as a county
I
commissioner?
don't mind supporting the whole county, but I don't want to support a dozen people with county money from the whole rest of the county.
And they've never been happy with our support to begin with.
Cause you never supported them to the level you should.
We have two very good airports within 20 minutes of us. The Clare City Airport is fabulous, you should know that,
I do,
and the Gladwin
and I
County
see the
Airport.
potential right here for this
Thanks for
airport.
interrupting, Gabe.
You're most
We're
welcome.
very courteous.
Come on, guys.
You take all the emotion out of it, I mean. Me, I don't wanna see it to close down, but you take the emotion out of it, we have 16 townships that we represent at this. Right here. How many townships benefit off the Harrison Airport? 1 to 2, maybe 3. So we're going into a budget, where we're gonna start having budget crisis here, so we have to look at it. We gotta sit down, we gotta look at it. I mean, we gotta look what's best for, I gotta look for my district, what's best for my district, George, Jack. So we have to really sit down, take motion, I'll look at it. It's been here for 40 or 50 years. What value has this airport brought in this 50 years? What's the plan for the airport to bring more value? What are we gonna do to sustain it? There's nothing ever, there's always talk about. We need this, we need to fund it, but there's never been no push to sustain it. How else can we sustain it?
What if we make it successful and it actually becomes an economic draw to Clare County that we get tax revenue from?
That would be great, but how do we get there?
I don't think we've been doing a very good job to try and do that.
The airport's been around for 88 years. And
Yes,
until I
Jack.
became a commissioner, there wasn't a concerted effort to fix that airport with a plan. And now we have that plan. And we're moving forward, and now the commissioners want to close the airport. And I find that just to be wrong.
Jeff, you know, when I came on board back in 2008, we had serious discussions about the airport. I have never voted against the airport. At that time, we had, the restaurant needed a lot of work. They had a grease trap problem, they had things. We voted to do that. Then we had to put a new drain field in. We had to put a lot of money into that airport. So when you roll ahead, we have supported that airport, not like what we, or like they would like. But we need, I'm not completely, I'm not on board for shutting it down yet. But we need to see, like, sustainable. What is sustainable? How much money is sustainable?
Well, look at Clare Municipal, and you can say what you want, but the city of Clare regularly budgets over $200,000 a year for their airport, and the county couldn't come up with 10. So it takes money, folks, to get this thing rolling, and it does take money, and that's what they've done down there. They have a beautiful little airport, it's beautiful. But it's cost them a lot of money to get it that way, to get it eligible for funding. And that's what it's gonna take, you know. The county, Clare County has not been out of their way in any way, shape, or form to support this airport. I've been involved in the last 10 years. And every time you want anything, you gotta fight for it. Folks, they don't make a big pile of money. Dave knows that. The other manager of Clare Municipal, they don't make a big pile of money. They don't make money at all, actually. But it takes money to get that thing rolling, so it can get stuff, and Clare County has not provided the money to get that rolling. You can't invite people, come to our airport, build a hangar, start a business. Well, I know, I heard the airport's gonna close. I've heard about 10 years. They're gonna close it. You can't build anything if people think you're gonna close it. And you need to come up with some money. And I know money is a tough object.
You know, I
That's-
would like to make this statement. I have never, through the years, and I've been on this board a long time, where are you hearing that we're gonna close the airport? Now, today, it's a different discussion. But we've got to be able to see, because we represent all of Clare County. We have to be able to allocate money to the things that we absolutely have to have. And I'm nervous. I've sat through all of the times when we struggled to pay the bills here. We argued about layoffs. We argued about these things. that is where the money for the airport kind of did get pushed aside. Because we had things, we had people in here, we had sheriff's deputies leaving, we had people leaving. It was always about money. And trust me, folks, you can write this down. If you look at the economic factors and the things that this country is dealing with, and the national debt and all the things that we're dealing with, we're headed back in that direction again. So we have to take a look. I'm a conservative person. I believe in taking a look, paying for what you can. So that is the factor that we need to have a plan on what is your plan for the airport? What's gonna happen out there to make it great? I'd sure like to do that too.
Well, and I think since the state donated to the county, we should offer it back to the state.
The state did not donate it to the county. You are factually incorrect.
Okay, clarify.
A private owner from Toledo donated it to Hayes Township. And then Hayes Township gave it to the county, and then half of it they gave to the state, and the state immediately gave it to the county. Both those parcels belong to the county.
But it did come from the state.
One parcel, half of the
Okay.
airport.
Jeff, the motion was properly moved and seconded. If it's gonna be delayed, it needs to be tabled, but the motion to
Gabe,
table,
I got one
according to
question.
Roberts.
But I need to, would you say that motion one more time?
Yes,
Cause you said defund the airport.
defund the airport on the upcoming budget and have Lori check.
We really
With
give
the
the
state.
airport no money as of right now, correct?
Right,
So what would defunding it do?
Wait,
It's for.
we have appropriated money for it for this fiscal year. But I'm not
We
done
haven't
with the
had to do the
budget, so
budget
I
yet.
have not put anything in for the airport for next fiscal year yet, so.
Well, I feel if we're not defunding anything, that really does not do much. That motion right there is just my opinion on that. This is a discussion.
I would just like to see us taken out of the mix. They've never been happy before we do. Let's let someone else handle it.
Okay,
Here's what I would almost say.
Here's my question on that. Does it have to be a county airport? Could it be city airport? Could it be Hayes Township Airport?
This board, according to the law, could have the Clare County Road Commission run that airport. Just like the three members now, you, I, and David
Yep.
run it for this board.
Yep.
So this entire board could move the entire airport issue to the County Road Commission. But that does not change the funding,
But
as
there's
I
a
understand.
restrictive deed on part of that property that if it ceases to be an airport, that portion goes back to the state.
I don't believe it says that. I think you need to confer with the state on that.
I wanted Lori to check on that for us, along with defunding it for the upcoming budget. Have Lori check,
It's not funded in the budget.
and Lori
It
could
may
check
be wrote down, but we can do that, but instead of. To squash this, obviously, there are people here not for it,
I understand that.
but I see no reason not to improve it. So instead of, I'd say if you wanted to hear about the airport, I think that's a very valid committee of the whole discussion.
When
But
is-
I don't feel it should stop us from voting on these two motions.
What's the
Well-
timeline for the grant? Gabe, what's the timeline?
Now, we have to vote on it now to get the money. They've already been asking us where our signed contract is for the $48,000 of our own tax money to come back from the state for this. They received a fiscal recovery funds grant of $1.2 million. We're on the list. It's in your packet.
Okay. So it's $48,000 a grant, correct?
Correct.
Okay, hear me out. So it's 48,000. Can we go one more year with, what do we usually fund the airport? Just, what do we usually fund the airport with?
We appropriated $20,000 to the airport
Okay,
in this fiscal year
so
that we're currently in.
Find a happy
here's
me-
20
happy-
grand
happy
for
medium.
years from the
we
sale
just-
of the property.
we got a year to figure out how to sustain the
We
airport.
ran out of that.
Okay,
So,
About 3 years.
yeah, probably.
So what,
Well, no,
two,
the 20 grand is gonna be gone after this fiscal year.
The sale of the property was a year or two ago that we got the 20,000.
And that had to
The
use for-
appropriation
Yeah.
is the one we're working on right now. So
Yeah.
we have used all of the sale.
Yeah,
All the proceeds from any of the sales.
but
is
that
gone.
still lasted quite some time.
It did, but we didn't use it for anything. So that's why it lasted long.
Well, I understand that.
Right, so let me just say about the sustaining thing. Mr. Kennecott brought it up, and I'll expand on it. The city of Clare, their Clare Municipal Airport, even in the best of years,
Don't make money.
still has to put $13,000 in from the city general fund to help sustain the airport. No airport in the United States of America is self-sustaining.
Okay.
It takes tax money, just like there's no sheriff's department self-sustaining, no prosecutor's office, no city clerk, no church. Nobody in government is self-sustaining. It costs money. It's called tax money. It's a necessary evil. Do I like having a lot of taxes? No, I don't. But in this case, there are fiscal recovery funds that have been allocated to us. Of those funds, if we do not take this, they're just gonna be diverted to another airport in the state of Michigan, and they will get the benefit, and we will not.
Okay, understand that the pushback I'm getting from my constituents down there. We already pay for that, so why are we paying for this? There's no benefit to us down the south. So that's pushback I'm getting. And every time we talk about that, everybody from south, that's what I hear.
I pay road taxes and those taxes fix roads in the UP and I get no benefit.
Well,
So that's a ridiculous argument.
to answer that, you should tell them, it's been since, when did we quit the Hayes Township, City of Harrison County agreement, 10,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
So it's been,
How long was that in effect?
that's 5 years since we've really had to put any money into the airport. So realistically, what could be told to your constituents is it has not been very expensive. Now, if we're gonna get to where we're improving it, just my opinion, so number one, we take this money and improve it, because obviously it's got no, but it's not gonna affect our budget, our money, we're actually, like Gabe said, bringing money back in. But then if we have questions on the airport, I say we take options. Does the state take it over? Does the county keep it? Does the road commission take it over? What's the best way to fund it? But I see no reason not to take these improvements when we're eligible for that grant.
Well,
This has nothing to do with the funding.
but if we let the state take it over, we might be responsible for paying back the grant.
I don't see how that is, but
I know that in some grants, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. Some grants, if they're not used for their intended purpose. So then we would have to be responsible for paying them back.
if the state took it over as an airport, that's
But if-
the purpose.
Right, but if we didn't, what I'm saying is. If we didn't operate it as an airport. You know, potentially, I mean, I know these are ARPA dollars, so I don't really know that.
Commissioner Gilmore said to give it back to
I-
the state. So at that point, the state paid the money, the state gets it back. If that's,
Okay,
And you're
I don't
talking,
see any
you're
reason why they
talking
wouldn't want it.
$48,000. I mean, if we have to pay back $48,000, I mean, for that grant right there. Now, how bad would that hurt the budget if we had to do that?
I think that's a spurious argument. They're not gonna ask for the money back after they put the crack seal on the paint on the runway.
Yeah.
That they would. We've had this discussion in our airport committee meetings.
can I get, the exact information you want me to get? Can you tell me exact information you want me to collect?
No, we don't have to do any of that. We got a motion, we got a second. I question the motion because of the fact that we have no money earmarked for the airport right now. So to defund it really means nothing. We haven't even voted on the budget yet. We haven't even seen how much is earmarked there.
Right.
So is that motion really even needed? You can bring into public record that you're against the airport, you wanna see what is involved in taking it over.
Right, I'm not opposed to it staying open if there's a need for it, but I think the state should make that determination. And we can take the county out of the mix. Because then we're limiting our liability and the unhappiness toward the county. for not supporting it at a higher rate.
Can I make the comment? I wasn't planning on speaking today, so I didn't bring any notes, but after listening to them talk, it reminded me that I've been in touch with, well, first off, we closed diagonal runways, we didn't have to trim the trees on the end of that to make it eligible for funding from the federal government. I've also been in touch with a developer that's very interested in putting hangar homes along the west side of that airport. But they're waiting to see what happens with water and sewer, which I heard is supposed to be getting extended down that area. That would generate not only jobs, it would generate a lot of tax revenue, plus to sell that property to the new landowner. So there are things that we're doing to help generate money to the county from that airport.
That's great. I think that's a great idea. But per this motion, I don't see the sense in having to vote on whether to defund the airport when we have no money going to the airport. If someone disagrees with me on that, please let me know.
I agree with you, Jeff. This makes sense for this to be discussed now.
Well, I
25
just-
presented, so-
I just would like to have a better vision.
And I think this is a great.
It's not political, David. I don't even have an opponent running against me.
Yes, but Gabe does.
I don't feel it's political either, so let's not
Where
bring
did
it
it
up.
come from?
Jack, what did you say? What did you say? I just would like to have, I mean, we've talked about that, and listen, I've talked about this now for 14 years, about the airport. I have voted numerous times to give them the 10,000, to give them the money. I've argued that case sometimes, but the time has come where we need to have what is going to happen if we improve the runway and that free, which thank you for your work on the grant and that kind of stuff. What is going to change? Is anything going to change? You know, back 10 years ago, we had this place full of snowmobilers mad at us because we didn't put some money up for the snowmobile trails and that. We've had the RV people that wanted us to buy signs when they passed the law that we could have out there that they could ride on Clare County roads. They wanted us to sign it saying, okay, here and there. We just don't have the money to do everything, so we have to pick and choose. If it can generate business and it can do things, by all means, we need to support it. The problem is like with the airport, and I'd like to clarify something. The gal at the airport, which the owners have changed at the airport, they don't own it, they run the business. Agreed, if we fixed it up, that they would do all the paperwork for us. Because we didn't have anybody to be able to go out there. They did a good job of that. That airport restaurant is a nice little restaurant, serve good meals and that. So it's, you know, I'm not, political don't mean a thing to me. I'm not gonna count the votes before I make a decision. But I will say, the areas that we come from, when I've discussed it, what do you think about the airport? Nobody in the crowds that I go to are interested because they all got the Clare Airport. They wonder, why are we spending money on something that doesn't have any return? It'll never pay for itself, I grant you, but I am for, if we can come up with a plan, you know, what we're gonna do with the airport and show, and it doesn't have to pay for itself, but when times get tough, and they are gonna get tough here, we're gonna be looking for the money. Lori has said we've got some retirement money we gotta come up with. The cost of insurance on the news this morning, your insurance is gonna go sky high. Now here, last 2 years ago, they had side-by-side races and things out there. And I thought, good, maybe we could get a drag strip, maybe we could get some things. Well, come to find out that wasn't allowed. But it was a use for it that generated some significant money. So I just need to have, where are we going with it?
Would you like me to answer that, Jack?
Yeah,
So since I've been a commissioner now for the last 18 months roughly, and the chair of the airport committee, we have met every month, well documented by the Clare County Cleaver on what we've been doing, what we've been trying to accomplish. One of the things that we've been trying to accomplish, because pilots will not fly in here to land with a bad runway. So we have focused on getting the runway fixed. Mr. Kennecott talked about how the road commission assisted us last year for a low cost, and this board did appropriate $6,500 for that repair, and it did wonders for that repair. So the next stage of the runway repair was the crack seal, which we had put in for last fall, and it was a match from the county. The state came back this year because we asked for crack sealing and for painting. We anticipated a match, which was going to be funded out of that $20,000 appropriation to fix the runway, the crack seal and the painting. They came back just now and said, no county match needed. We have fiscal recovery funds that you do not have to match any county funds from. Since you asked for crack sealing, you asked for painting, not to exceed 40,000 per project, here it is. So that's part of what this, what's on the agenda today, is to approve that contract to get that grant funding. Our plan is, number one, is to fix the runway, because if you don't fix the runway, it's pointless to fix anything else. We have received, as Bob, Mr. Ash said, we received hand-me-down lights from Pontiac Airport down at the state, which is a godsend. It's something I've been talking to the MDOT Deputy Director for Bureau of Aeronautics, is to get some hand-me-down lights from other airports that are upgrading to LEDs and they don't need the analog ones anymore. So they have been very kind to give us almost 400 lights, which is sufficient for us to redo the lights at our little airport. Now, why is that important? Because we have non-standard lights. So we're not in compliance with FAA rules. So now because of that, we can not only fix the runway, you can get the lighting proper. So that's part of our planning. The third plan was to get the turf runway on the north end fixed. That's what we've got some of our friends here that have come to a plan to redo that runway, reseed it, etc. And that takes putting the gates in. Neville Farm Supply, we did that expenditure to put new gates in, so we get farm equipment in to fix it. And Rick, you and I talked about that, about how we're gonna do the north runway. So the last part was to get the terminal fixed. It's half done. And we talked about that at the airport committee. The county administrator has a plan with local contractors to fix that. The building department is involved. We're all trying to move towards fixing that airport terminal. Why is that important? Then it reduces the desire or the need for the airport restaurant to handle our pilot register. It gives a place for our airport manager actually to have a desk and running water in a bathroom, which he does not have right now. Okay, so it actually takes care of one of our county employees. It gets us to where we need to be. So the two motions on today's agenda, one is to actually increase the rate on those people's hangar leases to generate more income as per the lease that we signed. So we have another 3, not only this year, but 3 more years of 5% lease increases if we need to. And then, of course, the last part of it is trying to bring in more development. There's a local business owner that has purchased one of the hangars. And we hope that he institutes an aviation-related manufacturing business. There is a business north of town in Frost Township that is interested in relocating if the numbers make sense. So we're trying to bring in more development into this area. And then what Mr. Ash also said is that whole west side of the airport, since we closed the diagonal runway, now is available to develop some sort of aviation-related planominiums. There is a demand for that, just like there's RVs, people like flying in places, put their planes in a hangar. So there's all of those things we're working on. So these are the plans that I've been with the airport committee. We've been discussing these. Does that answer your question, Jack?
yes, thank you.
There's a lot of things on our radar.
I do commend you, you've done a lot of work trying to get this off and going. I mean, I've also donated time and materials. I just think one thing we need to put in this is we gotta have a goal line. If we don't hit that, what do we do?
The goal line will be fixed with this grant approval, because we will be at the spot with that runway where we can't do anything else except lay down new. That's a whole different discussion. I mean, we're gonna be at a point now that our runway will be as repaired as it can be. That's where we're at. Now, we put the lights in, now we're up to FAA standard. I have asked the FAA to tell me, how do we become federally funded?
Mhm.
How do we do that? And I'm awaiting that answer to become a NIPIAS airport. I don't know if we can or not, but that's a potential long-term solution, which is similar to what Clare Municipal had.
Is it true, Gabe, that only one airport in the county can be federally funded? That's not true.
That's not true.
Okay,
That's not true. Now, that's not true, but I'm awaiting the FAA to tell me exactly what their new criteria is. The way I read it might not be the way they read it.
okay, well,
I'd like to also mention that this developer I'm talking about, he's not just some fly-by-night developer. He's my neighbor, he's a multi-billionaire. He's already developed the Jet Center at Romeo Airport. He's bought the property south of 31 Mile. They're getting ready to close 31 Mile down so they can extend the length of that runway. He loves flying. He loves developing, dumping money into airports, but he needs to know that the airport's gonna be there.
Nice things, but it goes back to my question. Are we still gonna vote on that motion to defund this when there's no money to defund right now?
Well, I think we give Lori direction for how to do the budget that we're gonna be voting on.
Well, that, we can vote on that budget, but it's not on there right now. You see what I'm saying?
You're the chairman.
You would have to withdraw your motion if we're not going forward.
You got a second.
I think it should be voted on then.
To defund the airport.
For the coming year. And have Lori check on. Having the state or county take over the responsibility, not county, state or city or Hayes Township. Taking over the responsibility.
I just don't think we're ready for that, George. I don't think that we're to the point where we need to pull the rug out from under it now. We've talked about this before through the years. But it's the first time that the state has stepped up to give us some money. And if in fact they can make a go of this, I think that we ought to at least give a chance, especially when it's not gonna cost us. Now, could we have to pay it back? Yes. But we'll cross that bridge when the time comes.
So my question is, I'm getting asked, how much time do we give? Do we give a year? Do we give 2 years?
Well,
Do we give 3 years?
We need to discuss that.
That's
in the
the
committee of the
question
whole.
we get asked.
Yeah, you need to discuss that at budget time. We gotta vote on.
That's why I'm
gotta
not for
vote
this
on the
motion. and
motion
if We
now.
have to do it, we have to do it, but I'm not for it because number one. We're not defunding anything right now because we have nothing guaranteed to the airport as is, because we don't have a approved budget or even a draft of the budget yet.
I agree with Jack and Jeff.
So I feel. Instead of that motion, we could go through the other two. And either whatever anybody feels on that. But a motion to defund no money. Is what I get out of this motion.
I just didn't wanna see us have to pay back grant money if we accept it and we pass off the airport to someone else to manage. So it seems like no matter what we do for the airport, all we get is that it's not enough, we're gonna file a lawsuit. And I think that's a liability we don't need.
That point I agree on. But there's never been anybody come in here in the 14 years I've been on the board and said, thank you for what you did.
Let me do that right now because I really, really appreciate it. I'm not from this area originally and I only came up here because of the airport. I've seen multiple times I've come up with at least 14 planes in front of the restaurant, people flying for $100 hamburger. The airport in the state it is now, the grass runway works for me. The long runway,
people that I know that have other planes, there's no way they can fly that in there. I bought a hangar, I bought a plane up here, I'm working on multiple planes. I'm gonna become an instructor in 2 years when I retire. I wanted to fly up here. You know why I wanted to fly up here? Because Houghton's 20 minutes south and there's not a better place in the country. You can take a low and slow flying World War II training airplane and fly kids. I don't understand, like, this is such a low budget amount. You guys have a $52 million budget. He's working his ass off. The only reason I'm still up here right now is because of that man right there. If you keep saying, I'm gonna close the airport, I'm not gonna put a dime into a building, basically own the structure, a 50-year-old thing. It's got history, this whole place. If you close that airport down, you will never, ever get another one, no matter what you do. So I would strongly encourage you to take a chance on the grant. If you put that runway in, you've got people here that are dedicated to the airport, and it's not just about us. Like, you have an asset that you can't replace. Airports like this are closing across the country at a high rate. My grandfather was at Dayton Wright-Patterson during World War II. He taught me to fly as a kid. What I've seen over my lifetime is the chance and the opportunity for kids to be able to do that shot out the tubes, because it's gotten more expensive, it's gotten sued out of existence. I would just ask you to really reconsider. I for one appreciate the fact that you guys are doing the minimum amount required to do this. Most of these planes are flying on grass strips, it doesn't matter, but I hear all this going on and I'm telling you, I'm not willing to put money into a hangar or building a new hangar or buying a hangar home if you can't at least get the runway repaired. I don't know what to tell you. I think it's crazy on this part, and I do appreciate the fact that you guys kept it together. And it's minimal intervention. You're talking about somebody to cut the grass, pretty much. Right now is what's happening. I'll wire the runway lights. It's not. There's people here that will do things. I don't expect you guys to do it. I could build the bathroom there. It's not like I haven't done that kind of work multiple times. I belong to the EAA. It's an Experimental Aircraft Association. We all maintain the Ray Community Airport ourselves. It's a public-private airport, but volunteers do that kind of thing. It's not like I would expect a large amount from the state or the county. But it does take the county or the road commission or whoever to maintain it or help maintain it, right? It's not a huge expenditure compared to most. It doesn't have to be a flare. Like, most of the flying would be off-air airport lines, like the ones in 1939 Piper Cub. These are all low and slow, built in World War II era. Like, these are primary trainers. It's not, doesn't require a lot. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Again, are we voting on the motion?
I think, Jeff, you gotta vote on the motion to the fund if they're not gonna pull it. And we can either vote it up or down. And
That
then,
will work.
and then we go to the next one.
Motion and a second, if you vote for withdrawal, we'll vote on it.
We have to vote on it.
You sticking with it or are you gonna pull it?
I think we should vote on it so Lori has direction for writing the budget.
What about you? Did you pull your second?
We already got a second.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, I was asking.
Also for me, I honestly now, I think we should wait until we go through that and pull it, then vote on it later.
Is that legal?
No.
Okay, I will withdraw my motion if this comes up at committee of the whole.
We research this at the committee of the whole. Okay,
And I would still like Lori to check and see what our options are. I'm not opposed to keeping the airport open. I'm opposed to it continuing to cost us part of our budget to get nothing but complaints and threats of lawsuit for the few people who use it.
I agree with George on that part.
Because I think we need to limit our liability. If they think it's important, more important to them than what we can afford, let's let somebody else handle it.
okay. So the motion is full. And
We want this for committee of the whole.
committee of the whole, I say we'll put that on the committee of the whole discussion. This was
I think we,
passionate and had a lot of different opinions. so
we're
I
gonna
think
go
we need to
ahead
look
with,
at it.
with the next motion. I think we should just put that part of the budgetary deal. the committee of the whole in a couple of weeks isn't gonna change anything.
Well, it's not even in the budget yet, so.
No, but the budget, when we get down to the budget, we'll discuss it then.
I would like, man, to read that, Mulching Airport, just airport motion.
To approve a 5% increase in the yearly hangar release rates as allowed in the current lease agreements effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2054.
Oh, sorry. That was 2025.
2025,
That's my fault.
from $203.78 per year to $294.82 per year as recommended by the airport.
Second.
You got a motion, got a second. Think we've had enough discussion, roll call, please.
Majewski,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes,
Oakley,
Yes.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Ambrositis,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Haskell.
Yes.
Motion carried, sorry.
Dale?
Sure, to accept the contract from the Michigan Department of Transportation Office of Aeronautics. Fiscal recovery funds, excuse me, for crack seal and fleet marking. I'll second.
A motion, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, should we do a roll call since it's money? Yeah. let's do a roll
Yeah, I
call.
think so.
Majewski,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Pittsburgh. No. I'm sorry, no. Rankin,
Yes.
Ellsworth,
Yeah.
Ambrositis,
Yes.
Gilmore.
I'll abstain.
You have to give a reason for abstaining. Woody,
My reason for abstaining is I'm just not sure that we should accept something. Okay, I'll vote no.
Better.
Haskell,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
yes.
motion carried.
Okay, so that. Gabe, can you do equalization?
Make a motion to approve the L-4029 2024 tax rate reflective of a millage rollback in the amount of $1,476,346,341.
Second.
The motion, you got a second? Roll call, please.
Ambrositis,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Majewski,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes,
Rankin,
Yes.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Haskell,
Yes.
motion carried.
I'm gonna. Take a recess for 5 minutes. I think we need a potty break. Coffee.
thank you. You having fun, Jody?
I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing. How about you?
I can't.
I can too.
I was being sarcastic.
The good thing about this, there's an election and I might not get reelected. So then
I probably will. You probably will.
You will. I don't know about that.
I have opposition, obviously.
What's that?
Get
Yeah.
nothing. Oh,
You wasn't here. He come in here years ago
Oh,
and he wrote that letter to the editor.
oh,
He's-
oh.
I told my daughter, if I lose, I'll come down there and go work for her. That's not,
Perfect.
stay up here. So,
That sounds perfect.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, play it by ear.
You know, I said about these Tesla chargers and, or these chargers, that boy, you wouldn't want to have one out there today. You can get in this parking lot this morning.
I heard it's packed. There's a big trial going on, I guess. I'm not even sure.
But anyway, when I said that, I heard a coming, and it was a Tesla.
Oh. Well, it must not need to be charged, must be fully charged.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
How's it going, Scott? You got your hay all made up for the critters?
I haven't even started hay yet.
Yeah.
I just got hay equipment home yesterday, so it's time to,
One good thing about it, there's some hay out there this year.
yeah. Sound like you guys have got, some high production going on down there?
Well, I pretty well all sorted corn.
Is it?
Now I wish I had 100 acres of hay, but then again, the hay crop's twice what it was last year. So
That didn't take much. Always had to have some rain.
I know it.
It's been pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Of course, fertilizer costs went through the roof.
yeah.
Two hundred and five acres this year would have been just under 15 grand for fertilizer.
Oh, yeah. So did you fertilize it?
Oh, yeah.
I was late getting started the way the weather and everything was, and even at Kitty Curtis there, they weren't able to get any fertilizer down just because of the timing. So
Well, I know.
what MSU recommended I put on there would have been about 15 grand,
That's what you're right, I think.
but it's coming up just fine how it is.
Yeah.
So,
Was that new seeding?
I have my
to the
blankie.
north it is, and then I've got some new seedings over at Kitty Curtis, because I lease some of their ground.
Oh, you leave some there?
Yep, on the south side.
How many acres you learned?
I cut back this year. We were at 290 and I'm down to 5 now. Yeah.
So you're doing?
Good, how are you?
This in there too. I had another meeting. I have a.
We'll see. It looks good, but you know how that goes.
You missed the police work?
So I was on that one.
I miss the in progress stuff. I don't miss all the dumb crap.
Did you
Probably
see
time to
there
go get it.
where there's
Go
this
on it.
morning on the news?
Should be
they said
longer,
it's a
shouldn't it?
real
I don't think
Jake.
so.
Well, what he was doing is demoting certain people and putting his buddies in their position.
Was it Colonel doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
No kidding. So it
And then
wasn't.
past colonels had to remind the current staff that he answers to them. They don't answer to him.
Okay.
So there's, yeah, they did a vote of no confidence through the union.
No kidding. That's why it's such a turmoil.
Oh, that.
Yep,
Right.
benefits of political appointments,
I know that.
Well,
not always what's best for the agency.
that's the way it all goes.
Yeah, well, but they're losing sight of the fact it's about taking care of the public that pays for them.
Yeah.
It's not about taking care of buddies.
All the, you know, they talk about road funding. You can't get around the stage right now.
Mm.
There's more construction. I read where there's, the state of Michigan has 250 million barrels of dollars worth of barrels.
The EV zoning commission? Sure. Motion to approve the L 4029. Nope,
Next one down.
one down. Motion to approve the charging station agreement between Charge EV LLV and Clare County as amended by our attorney.
Motion, we got a second. We had discussion on this, so if there is no more. Roll call, please.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Majeski,
Yes.
Pittsburgh. Yes. Copeland,
Yes.
Ambrositis.
Yes.
Hauser, yes. Barnhart,
Yes.
Lincoln,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
motion carried.
Jack, you take the East Township enforcement?
I move to approve the contract between Hayes Township and Community Development as amended by our attorney for the enforcement of the lake.
Second.
The motion, we got a second.
And I have something to say about it. I did put, this was yesterday, I received this and, Hayes Township requested these changes in this contract, which I will have done. There at your spot, and it shouldn't be an issue at all to approve it with these two changes in it as well. It's just a separate email. For you to review the third one.
Order request and
Yeah,
the term of the contract.
yeah. Yeah, see, that works. It's not just me that's making spelling errors. Joyce.
Okay. We got a motion, we got a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Barnhart,
Yes.
Ambrositis.
Yes.
Pittsburgh. Yes. Majeski.
Yeah.
Copeland,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Hauser, yes. Lincoln,
Yes.
Aspen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Rick, can you do statutory finance committee A?
My pleasure. To approve statutory financial committee meeting minutes of May 13th, 2024 in the amount of $71,691.78 and the minutes of April 29th, 2024 in the amount of $162,051.60. The minutes of May 28th, 2024 is the amount of $38,699.62. And the minutes of June 10th, 2024 in the amount of $1206,776.17.
Second.
You got a second? Roll call, please.
Lincoln,
Yes.
Ambrositis.
Yes.
Pittsburgh. Yes. Majeski.
Yeah.
Copeland,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Barnhart,
Yes.
Aspen,
Yes.
Hauser, yes. Motion carried.
Okay, well, take B.
To approve, make a motion to approve the expenditure for the month of May 2024 in the amount of $2,608,579.68. With the general fund expenditures of $1,063,461.69.
I'll second it.
You got a second? Roll call, please.
Hauser, yes. Copeland,
Yes.
Pittsburgh. Yes. Majeski.
Yeah.
Ambrositis.
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Barnhart,
Yes.
Lincoln,
Yes.
Aspen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
So property is not on there. House approval's already been done. David, you take conservation district lease?
Of course, Jeff. Motion to approve a 99 year lease agreement with the Conservation District for property located in Hatton Township. Property ID 005-016-30002, the amount of $1 per year.
Can I ask a question real quick? That number isn't a Hatton Township number. That Hatton Township, that property number is not a Hatton Township. Property ID.
Okay, well, I'll have to check, but that was the one that was on the,
That looks the Reading Township. property.
oh, okay.
Just if that's important.
Yeah, I'll
That
check that.
number.
Still do the motion.
Yeah.
Strike that from the motion.
Yeah,
Strike the property tax ID number?
Yes.
Okay.
it's the Hatton Township property.
Good catch.
To that. It's the only one we got.
Yeah.
She knows the numbers.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah.
It wasn't in there.
Roll call.
Hoagland,
Yes.
Majeski,
Yes.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Ambrosaitis.
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes,
Bacon,
Yes,
Castle,
Yes.
motion carried.
Lawyer, you're up.
I don't have more, I just wanted to bring to your attention how hard my office is working today with this jury trial. I had to call in 2 panels for the jurors for the trial, which is I think 93 people. That's why there was no parking this morning. We're working hard on the election, gearing up for the early voting for the August election and the testing. And register deeds, I just want to remind everyone that we have a property fraud alert. It's free to the citizens of Clare County to sign up for that. If a document is recorded with the register of deeds in your name, you'll get an alert via text, email, or phone call. Please spread that word to your constituents. If you need any flyers to take to board meetings or other meetings, I can provide that as well. Thank you.
Lori, what's that alert say?
It just says that a document was recorded at the Clare County Register of Deeds in your name.
Okay,
This is the document number. This is the phone number of our office to call if you don't recognize that. It tells you what document it was, whether it was
okay,
your,
are we running into that again?
for me,
Are we seeing some of that again?
fraud or people signing up.
Well, no, of people fraudulently doing that. Are we?
It's going on all over the country. We haven't seen much in Clare County, thankfully. It has happened. Mostly what we see in Clare County are relatives defrauding each other. So like a mom will come in and say, my daughter-in-law is engaged to my daughter-in-law, I didn't do that, that type of thing. And at that point, there's nothing we can do at the county. It becomes a legal matter. But it stops that immediately, it doesn't stop it, it alerts you immediately, and then you can investigate.
Two
Thank you.
lawyer kids of mine, I don't trust them.
Jenny?
that's why you leave everything to me.
For today, you guys have had a long enough day. I just have the statutory reports in front of you. We should see the cash investment and fund balance report just updated as of yesterday. And then just the statutory monthly expenditure for report. The monthly report for me. If you have any questions, please feel free to come to my office anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing, but attending my meetings, but. Once you clear it from. Nothing.
Just a reminder, Father's Day weekend, and this is the expo in Lake George, it's a good sized car show. Merchants there, Sheriff's Department met, hooks up hot dogs for everybody, so it's a pretty good event. Last year's event was huge, and it was a big success. So everybody needs to come out. It starts at 11 o'clock to 3, so weather's supposed to be nice. Be a good time on Saturday, yep. Just one more thing I want to talk about, this airport thing. We all have to work as a team together. The fighting back and forth doesn't accomplish anything. Bringing politics into it doesn't matter. In Clare County, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, you work for the 30,000 people that are in this county.
Yes.
You have to make your decisions on what's best for those 30,000 people. So the arguing with the bringing politics into it, leave it to go on, you know? That's all I got to say. Well, sir.
Darlene?
I don't have much. I just have one little item. Freeman Township has just enlarged their cemetery and it's really looking nice. It's not completed yet, but it was quite a project for them to get this done. So that's all I've got for today.
I have a short meeting scheduled this month, so I don't have much as I don't want to do Franklin Township had a very lengthy discussion on the right to farm cases that they've been dealing with the last couple of months. The state level came in, they have reviewed all 2 cases of the 6. One the Chris was still working on, and the other one refused to have the inspector look into the area. We've already discussed the airport, so I will skip that. Brooks Township, we heard from several of the candidates, including the drain commissioner and prosecutor candidates. They are working on bids for concrete around the township building. The concrete around it is cracking, and they're worried about some structural damage if it continues. So they approved a bid for that. In Summerfield Township, the cell tower project is making good progress. They are in the final stages of getting approval by their planning commission. And they recently had the township wall painted, and it looks very nice. The painters did a very good job on it. In Hamilton Township, the board was informed that there is a new health department inspector. And they were having a discussion about blight issues. They're wondering if the health department can help them with some of it. They also did a correction to their cemetery ordinance. They did a motion instead of a resolution last month, so they had to go back and correct that. And then a big ticket item on their agenda was the fire contract. As many of you know, the city of Harrison has recently raised the price of fire protection. And Hamilton, unfortunately, has got to the point where it can no longer afford to pay for the fire protection. The amounts doubled pretty much. So they had to go and ask to have their citizens chip in a little extra money for fire special assessment. FOIA information that they received from the city. There's like Hayes and Hamilton Township pay about 50% of the annual cost to run the Harrison Fire Department. So they are going to be working on getting that special assessment through. They have to do 3 special resolutions, hold a couple public hearings. The first of them will be in a couple months time. That's where Hamilton Township is right now, and I do agree that we shouldn't have holidays. That's all I have.
Man,
I attended my meetings, I'd just like to say, going forward, we really need to pay attention to what we're doing. We said that we're okay now, but we really need to pay attention so we don't get into Isabella County issues. And I don't know if everybody has maybe just slipped their mind, but we can't even fund animal control or MSU extension. We have to go to the public and ask for a millage to fund that. So we just don't have an endless pot. So we need to really batten the hatch and quick spending. That's it.
Thank you. So I've attended all my meetings as well. The next airport committee meeting is the 25th of June at 4 p.m. in this room. And in preparation for our next committee of the whole, I'll go ahead and provide a more formal handout on our airport plan to help answer some of the questions that have been raised. But that's all I have.
George? I've been attending my meetings, nothing of major concern. Grant Township did finish the construction of their new addition, their new parking lot, but everything's going well.
Jack?
I was up to the MAC in Roscommon, and we talked about revenues, and some of the counties are starting to feel the pinch. And I agree with what Samantha said. And coming up, they said there is going to be a septic tank law passed of some form. So all of you that have septics, you're gonna have some inspections coming. Now, there was a lot of debate on how they're going to do this, but the one representative that introduced that lives in Detroit and the other lives in Grand Rapids. So I would ask, what the heck do they know about septic?
They got sewer.
You know, but they passed the thing. Well, Jim was in here and he talked about the solar, and I've commented on the solar farms coming here for the last several months. And yesterday I had to go over to Lakeport, which is just about, 10, 15 miles north of Port Huron. And I travel to get there quicker. I go down 53 and then those 2-lane roads. And I did not see one solar farm, one excavation getting ready for it. So I wondered, I was gonna ask Jim, but I didn't want to beat it to death. Why DTE is in that energy that DTE is getting is going to Detroit area or downstate. And so why are they grabbing so much land? I do understand why people sign up. They're offering tremendous amounts of money. But I will tell you, it'll be a rainy day and you know where before they ever reclaim that land to farm. That's just not going to happen.
You're probably
So
right.
they are still trying to lease more land in Clear County. So it is what it is. That's it.
One comment too on your and Samantha's discussion. I feel we're in a good spot though, because of the staff, the group, administrator, elected officials. We are starting to think proactively too. And find, instead of thinking of cuts, hopefully don't have to make any, we're going out and finding the money we need. And I think the staff should be complimented on everything they do, because I think they do a great job on that also.
Well, I think we turned it around.
I-
Samantha and I remember when we just
I
sat
do,
here,
I do too.
and tried to figure out how we were gonna pay the bills.
Yeah.
It was just cut,
It's
so
right around the corner too.
I'm gun shy, and if you read the economic reports, there's a lot of storm clouds coming in. So,
There's gonna be a lot of storm clouds out of our control.
But I feel we've got a good staff to handle it.
Yes, we do.
So. And you're up.
That's what I was gonna talk about, so, I mean, Jack, they stole it from me, Jack and Samantha.
All right, perfect. Leads to the state of the county budget. Lori, as soon as we get, like she said earlier, get negotiations done, we'll be able to put a bigger handle on it, because we know we're gonna be our labor costs, but as of now, she's got everything she feels just about balanced and needs that final number before she can bring something to us.
But I would like to say too, this is all I think about. We're doing contract negotiations and it keeps me up at night. I want to be able to treat the employees and remain good steward of taxpayer dollars. This is all I think about, of how we are gonna fund each year and how we are gonna fund it into the future. I'm actually looking into 15 years into the future, because we have a retirement obligation that we are required to fund by law. And most of us in this room are not gonna see the end of it. It's gonna be like 2039. I got a chart for you, but this is all I think about, is making it work in coming up with ideas of, Jenny and I are putting together a hybrid position. Combining a position for 2 departments instead of, one. So there are a lot of people that are thinking outside the box, and not replacing and, moving things around, which I can't really talk about. But we have been doing a lot of thinking outside the box, and this consumes me. It consumes me to make sure that we're doing for the employees, but yeah, we're still maintaining what we need to. for the taxpayers, and, I am concerned. So, but I think that's probably typical. Right now, we should be at about 70.83% expense through the fiscal year. We're at 62.66% expense, so we're holding well there. I still think we're gonna expend about $5.3 million through the end of September. Those are the projections. I'm hoping that we are under in expenditures. I'm hoping that we're under in expenditures by about $400,000 that we have in revenue, because I feel that we're going to need that going into the next fiscal year for our retirement, to go towards our retirement obligation. So, and that's all, I guess.
Maureen said 62.66%.
We are 62.66% expensed as of yesterday.
Any public comment? Yeah.
I know.
Pat's first. Sorry, Lisa.
I can wait, ladies.
Oh, you're fine. Go.
No, please. Okay, I'll do it. What the heck. I've said up here before, mentioned the same thing and everything else, but there's a little difference. Now again, Pat Adams. I have these really nice new hearing aids that's been adjusted to my exact hearing losses and stuff like that. However, I'm still having a very difficult time hearing a couple of the people speak in here. I know when you guys designed this room and everything else, it was set up that you guys are gonna have microphones in front of you, speakers and all that stuff, and I was told that there was upgrades that are supposed to be coming for that. I know it all costs money, understand. But do you know any more new status?
I'm waiting for them to come and do it. It's like waiting for the sheriff's card. Waited for 3 years. We're just waiting for them to come.
So have they given you any proposed update time? Another thing I'd like to mention, sorry, I call you by your first name, was I want to say Dale, so I don't mess it up. I hate slaughtering that was one of my worst things, enunciating new people's names. I think you hit it on the point in here. It cannot be, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, it's a political move or anything else like that. I think that cannot be. I think every one of you guys were voted in by your constituents to what's best for the county as a whole. I agree with that statement 100%. Unfortunately, there are times that when your constituents may say, what's good for us right here at this location? And while it's not real good, particularly for us, but as a county as a whole, and that has to be explained that way to the people. I ran into this in past practices that I had, stuff that I dealt with. So I do want to honor that, and I know that it does happen that way because when you guys had the first aid, or, when we were having that first meeting downstairs in the basement about emergency response and everything else, there was an elected official from down in Clare. He was one of the township supervisors. He says, we shouldn't even be involved in this. This is a northern Clare County responsibility, not a southern, because we have rapid response time. I know it's a little different off the beat, but there are them mentalities, but his mentality should be, this is best for the county, not just for our little area. But that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You're good to have. Yes.
Okay, as far as that MMR goes, there is a training that's starting today at 2 o'clock. People had to pre-register. It's 2 to 6, and that's called First on the Scene. And that came out of some of those meetings. And just so you know, there are over 100 people that are registered, so they're going to have it, a few different times. So that's definitely positive.
That is very fun.
I just wanted to, well, first thank Miss Lori and Miss Jody and Miss Jenny for watching the money so well, and I know it's kind of difficult when you want to fund everybody. Everybody and help everyone. So I really appreciate the steps that you guys are taking to make sure that the employees and the taxpayers and residents of the community are taken care of. So good job on that, ladies. Thank you much. As far as recovery court and veterans treatment court, we just went through recertification. So that's why my hair is darker now. Get rid of the gray. It was a big process, and they do it every 4 years. I worked on it for about 4 to 6 months, getting everything together and doing it. So once again, we're a certified recovery court and veterans treatment court until 2028, which opens us up to state and federal funding. So that's been, or you can't get that funding if you're not certified. So that keeps us there, and we don't have to come so much to the county with funds. But I do appreciate you guys continuing to support us with the $7,500 a year that you allocate for us. So thanks again for that. We really appreciate it. Where basically I wrote the grant for 30 participants in recovery court and 10 veterans. We have 40 in our regular program, and I think 9 veterans that are coming. So it's just absolutely exploding. So this year's grant, I expanded up to 50 participants and 20 veterans. So that'd be a big growth there. I think we're helping a lot of the individuals that are going through a program. Our success rate is still at 82%, where state is at 77, and nationwide, I think is 76.4.6, something like that, 76-ish. So we're above what others, and I think a lot has to do with judge and the camaraderie of our participants, and they're kind of saying that they're a community within a community of support and help of each other, going to each other's homes to assist with fixing septic, fixing anything so that people can get their children back. Child Protective Services is really quick to say, okay, well, we're gonna come Friday and do a home inspection. So participants will put out a call, and everybody just gets together, goes over, helps it get done. Families reunified, and it's wonderful. One of our participants that I was at first leery to bring in because of his history was well on his way to prison from anywhere from 15 to 20 years. He's got custody back of his children. He's leading recovery and support groups in the community. So it has been absolutely phenomenal for this gentleman that I honestly was scared at start, but all of our training tells you, do not look at a history. Do not look at, oh, maybe this guy, maybe he won't. Everything objective to make sure that we don't have any, oh, I like you, maybe not so you. And I'm thrilled that we let him in, and just very pleased. Thank you for the MMR opportunity. I have a lot of our participants that have signed up to do that and learn to be first responders, even in their own home or in the community, people that they know in the recovery community. So I haven't been here for a while, just wanted to come and say hey and let you guys know that we're plugging along in the basement. Wi-Fi really stinks down there, but we're making it, and that's about it. Did anybody have any questions for me that you might want to ask while I'm up here? Yeah, y'all just don't care.
You're doing great.
I thank you. No, if you ever want to stop in too, every other Thursday is recovery court sessions. Today we're having court because Judge couldn't make it last time. He's never missed a graduation yet. We've had over 136 graduates, and we're having a graduation today. So if you wanna stop down for a piece of chocolate cake with peanut butter frosting, please feel free to come and join us for the graduation. And that's about it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Any other public comment?
Well, not to beat a dead horse, but I'd just like to say that there's not a lot of communities that have the prestige of having their own community airport. And that's something that everybody should be proud of, and that we're working hard trying to do things at the airport. That's gonna get the community involved and hopefully generate more revenue for this community.
Any more? All right. No unfinished business and no new business, I'd say